Officials in Kiev have reportedly called for concrete and meaningful outcomes. We've also heard a series of social media messages from Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky in recent days. He's called for more air defences, calling for Ukraine's allies to supply them. He says that he is currently working with partners on that issue. He says that the priority for protecting Ukraine's skies is absolutely critical. And in a separate social media post, he says that it's paramount that allies do more to enforce the sanctions already in place on Moscow. Now, when it comes to the substance of this meeting, well, I've spoken to a NATO official that says that this was a meeting requested by Ukraine. It will be held at an ambassadorial level. And essentially, this official, without going into detail, says that this is an opportunity to discuss the current security situation on the ground.
Vladimir Putin has threatened to hit military facilities in countries that allow Ukraine to use their weapons against Russia. Is NATO worried?
Well, Jamie, Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, is in Greece for meetings with the Greek Prime Minister. Now, in a brief news conference, Mark Rutte didn't really comment on the use of long-range missiles. He has, in the past, expressed the support for these types of weapons to be used, but he did mention what is being described by some as the growing internationalization of this conflict, citing the likes of North Korean weapons and soldiers in this fight, Iranian drones, as well as dual-use goods coming from China, of course, something that has been reputed by Beijing. Mark Rutte saying that these escalations, as he puts it, marks a dangerous expansion and challenge to peace and security. He says that allies have essentially kept Ukraine in this fight, but he says that more is still needed to, as he says it, change the trajectory in this war. He says that means more air defences, more finances for Ukraine, as well as a clear path to NATO for Ukraine in the future. There are, though, some grumblings among some members of the European Parliament, for example, in Brussels about the trajectory of this conflict. Some, especially on the right, are calling for a de-escalation, warning that an escalation could bring with it more economic and loss of life going forward. So the mood from Brussels is certainly not unified going forward.